Very good question. Very good question. And to answer it, I need to set a couple parameters, and then I'm going to state my case and try and explain my thinking. So to start with, I'm considering a 1st century AD, mid 1st century AD Roman legion, and I'm also then considering, say, an early 5th century BC Spartan phalanx. That would slightly help to redress the balance in terms of numbers, because we've got around, say, 5,000, let's just say that, for the Roman legion. Getting up to 5,000 for a Spartan phalanx, and by that I mean Spartiates, not Perioikoi, not necessarily Helots, not allies that the Spartans had fighting with them. I'm talking about those guys who do the sit-ups. Probably that's around the period where Sparta could commit to that size, okay? Because after then they have significant demographic problems which just continue. And when you actually get to the, say, the Peloponnesian War, you find that the Spartan armies are largely composed of other elements other than those Spartan citizens, the Spartiates. So that's what I'm looking at, that's what I'm considering. And now I'm going to think about how the engagement might take place on level ground. So let's give both forces level ground. The way I see it breaking down, and again, you could probably run this another number of times and come up with slightly different outcomes, is that the initial part of it is almost like a jab engagement, because you've got the Spartans and you've got their spears. Now, one of the reasons the Spartans were held in such high acclaim in antiquity was largely because they were so well organized and well drilled. We sometimes place the weight of that and what we consider how good they were on the idea that they're all mini John Wicks that could take out dozens of enemy by themselves. And yeah, they were obviously trained in hand-to-hand combat and they were obviously very good at it, but primarily the strength of a phalanx was its drill. That's how good it was. It was the fact that it could fight in step, that everyone in the formation knew what their role was. They rehearsed it so many times that when battle actually was joined, this wasn't necessarily a new thing. That was obviously a huge disadvantage to other Greek phalanxes who didn't have that level of experience and that drill. And that's why sometimes you hear about how fearsome the Spartans were. It was partially because of that. So you've got that initial engagement of the spears, but once the Romans get past those spears, it swings hugely, I think, in their favour, because when you're looking at a Roman legionary of the 1st century, mid-1st century AD, you're looking at a swordsman, a heavily armoured swordsman. Get past those spear points into the body of the phalanx, and I think then it quickly turns and becomes a Roman victory. I don't think the Spartans run, by the way. I think they stay and stick it out. But the Romans were effectively a meat grinder. That's a really good description that I was once given of what a Roman legion was. That's why when you watch Roman reenactments, and when I did reenactment, they said you're not there to be sort of Jack Sparrow, doing all this, jumping around, leaping around the place. It's really quite dull. You are effectively a meat grinder. You just keep pressing against the enemy, and that's what you're trying to do. So with those two elements in mind, all those dynamics that I've mentioned, that's the way I see it turning. I see it initially perhaps a bit standoffish because those spears and that phalanx will be well organized. It will be difficult to get past those spear points. But once the Romans do, perhaps they get around the sides, because again, you've got to remember just the tactical flexibility that a legion has. That's one of their big advantages. That's one of the things that really changes it up for Rome, that they know what they can do and they know how they can redeploy. They're very mobile. And I'm not just saying that in terms of being mobile and individual being able to run around a lot. I'm talking about you can take a unit of men, give them a command, and they will go and do exactly what you've asked them to do on the battlefield. That is huge. And I think up against a phalanx where we know that it's very strong in front, get around the sides, get around the back, and things become very messy very quickly. So that's the way I see it rolling out for that engagement. So you'd have that initial Spartan being able to put up resistance, but I think they'd fold once the Romans got around the sides, past those spear points. Anyway, let me know what you think. And again, if you're not following that channel, by the way, do so. It's very, very interesting, and that is a great question. So thanks for putting it out there.